I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to this afternoon's agenda meeting. Today we'll review the action items that will be formally addressed on May 7th, next Tuesday, May 7th at 6 p.m. here at City Hall, and Deputy City Manager Lance Spicer will lead a review of those action items. Lance?
Thank you, Mayor. As the board and the public will probably see, we did have a what NFL would call a bye week, so we do have actually a relatively large consent agenda and a couple new business items, but we'll begin in earnest. First item on the consent agenda section is consider resolution R2480, resolution approving the procurement of certain computerized maintenance management services and systems pursuant to the cooperative purchasing program through Sourcewell, and we have Mike Hill, our assistant city engineer.
Hello, the City of Hot Spring requires a software system to create work orders and track work and inventory and cost. Brightly Software offers Asset Essentials, which is a cloud-based service developed for simple and advanced asset and operations management geared towards municipal facilities, public works, public utilities, and public services. Users can initiate, assign, and track the progress of maintenance work items and manage assets and equipment for all properties with an advanced mobile GIS system. The GIS system that is offered uses Esri, which is the city currently uses. It can develop advanced workflows and include preventive maintenance scheduling. Brightly Software is a Siemens company with over 20 years in the business, is well established and has a good reputation. We have been utilizing a sandbox version of it for this system to determine whether or not Asset Essentials would meet our needs in Hot Springs. Water, wastewater, and street departments have used Asset Essentials Professional on a trial basis for several months and have found that it meets our needs with just a few issues. We believe those issues can be addressed by moving up to the next tier of the software called Asset Essentials Enterprise. Moving to Enterprise will allow us to add additional departments to the system. Enterprise will also give us additional abilities over which we currently have using the system that we are trying out. The extra abilities are self-service account administration, a report designer for custom reports, a rural expression builder, a data import builder, and a field title customization. The software can be purchased through the state Sourcewell agreement for $42,676 for the remainder of the year, and the funds are in the 2024 budget. The price includes $19,021 for training and implementation, and the proposed 5-year contract that we are presenting before you has the advantage of locking in only a 3% increase in price for the next 5 years. Year over year.
Any questions of Mike? Mike, you indicated that it would only cost $42,000 for the balance of the year. Are we purchasing this, or is it a monthly lease expense? Or?
Well, it's a yearly expense. So you'll see in the $42,000, only part of that is for the remainder of the year for the software. The other portion of it is for training and pulling the rest of our assets into the system.
Okay, so let's say for next year, 2025, what's the annual cost?
For 2020, that would be, I have to look over here, and I thought I printed it out. It should be on the bar.
$41,768.03.
Yeah, I got the wrong sheet. $41,768, right.
Very good, thank you.
And it goes up 3% per annum.
Yep.
Any other questions of Mike? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. You mentioned too, Mike, that training was going to cost about $19,000. Would that training be enough to provide the tools necessary for our staff over these 5 years, or is that training going to need to take place each year as well
That is
at $19,000?
Well, no, the 19,000 should get everybody up to speed, but that training is online training. We have the request from utilities that we actually bring somebody in to help learn how to do some of these custom reports. So there may be some additional, it would be for bringing somebody in for like a day or two and just kind of sitting over us and how do you create this report. So we may do, after this implementation, may do a little bit more training for some of the specific asset enterprise, because it is much more powerful than what we're using right now.
So you're suggesting the training on the front end is more of a bulk type training, and then moving forward over the next 5 years could be
As
just
needed.
kind of small implementation like training?
Yes, just as needed.
Would that still be at a cost, but that cost be far less than
Far less.
19,000?
Right, yes,
Okay.
much, much less.
Thank
And
you.
there is a yearly, they recommend going to a yearly conference, so we're looking at doing that. We'll just see how it goes, whether or not we're going to see if that's a benefit or not for us sending someone to that conference.
Thank you.
Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Is this an online system?
yes.
And will, it sounds like with this asset enterprise and the more power that it provides, will this save time?
Yes, it should save us time. A lot of the inventory that we're doing right now we had to go back and do it by hand on spreadsheets and stuff. This should make things a little smoother. That
More
will-
automated?
More automated. That's one of the issues we had right now. They were having a little trouble trying to get the inventory correct, and the enterprise that we want to go to gives us the ability to create the reports and give the information that we want, rather than the canned information that comes in the software as a package.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, I believe Mr. Hill has the next item as well. Consider Resolution R-2481, a resolution awarding a contract to Crafton and Toll and Associates Incorporated for certain engineering design services for Higdon Ferry Road improvements. Mike?
Okay. When the Higdon Ferry widening was completed, a balance of approximately $500,000 remained from a congressional allocation. And to keep with the intent of the allocation, the Hot Springs City Board in November of 2020 passed Resolution 9742 to enter into an agreement of understanding with RDOT to design and construct additional improvements to Higdon Ferry Road. This would be at an 80-20 split up to the remaining money. The area chosen for improvement was the interchange of Higdon Ferry and Central in front of Oaklawn. The plan is to give us options for an additional traffic lane moving northward from Higdon Ferry onto Central. The staff put out a rated and ranked firms, with Crafton Toll and the Associates receiving the highest rating, and they are now recommended as the engineering firm for the design of this interchange improvement. Negotiations have been completed with the firm. RDOT has signed off on the contract, and we are now ready to bring it to the board. The design fee is $160,172, with which the city is responsible for 20%, or $32,034, which is in the 2024 budget.
Any questions
questions?
of Mike there? Director Garcia.
Our portion, you said, was 32,000 for this project?
$32,034.
And the remainder of that 500,000 can be used towards other
The
projects?
80%. Because it was allocated for Higdon Ferry, in the conversations with the RDOT, they wanted to, and it was congressional allocation, they wanted to keep it for the Higdon Ferry, and we thought the interchange there would be the best use, because that is the bottleneck on the Higdon Ferry right now, trying to get onto Central on that portion. So we intend to use the full 500,000 for the design, and then put that towards construction in the future.
Well, what about the interchange with the expressway in Higdon Ferry? That's been on a list for a number of years with RDOT.
That is a commitment that RDOT did besides this. So that would be additional money that they would put in for that interchange. So
Without a match from us?
that is something that they will come back and talk to us about. I'm not sure what that is going to be. You can move it up on the list if you're willing to throw some money in. So that's.
Well, that's what I was asking about, where the priorities are on using that
Well, back in
500,000.
back in 2020, this was the priority that the board decided at that point that they wanted to bring this forward.
Oh,
Higdon
just for
Ferry.
that project? I thought it was set aside for Higdon Ferry.
Well, it's set aside for Higdon Ferry, and the board decided at that point that the best use of that money would to improve the intersection there at Higdon Ferry and Central, to try to get more traffic through that interchange. That was the decision and the agreement with RDOT.
At the end where it comes into.
Yes, right there in front of
Because
Oakland.
we added some traffic lights in front of, into the Oakland parking lot, and we expanded the Crawford Drive into Central to take some of that traffic off.
Yes, but when you travel that direction, it's
Yeah,
still,
I know.
it's still a
I travel
backup.
it every day.
Yeah, it's still a backup.
Yeah.
That was,
But there's also backups at intersection,
yes.
huge.
Mhm.
So
It's-
I don't want us to lose sight of those projects, because I receive a number of complaints about that area.
Yes. It's just at the time, the board decided this is where they wanted to focus their money. RDOT agreed, so they've already got an agreement on that portion. That's just up to the board if they want to go forward with that.
Thank you.
Okay?
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. The next item is consider resolution R 2482, a resolution awarding a bid to Haynes Pump and Process LLC for certain wet well monitoring mounted sewer pump station equipment for the Hot Springs 3 lift station located at 2344 Higdon Ferry Road, and this is in the amount of $264,378. We have Mr. Todd Pillar, our engineering project manager.
Thank you, Lance. Good afternoon. The Hot Springs number 3, it's behind the All Creatures Vet Clinic and Waffle House at the very end of Higdon Ferry, right by the Doubletree. It handles all the wastewater that comes from the causeway south. So the pumps are wore out, and they're Smith & Levis, we call them can pumps, and they've been submerged many times. So staff went back with a wet well mounted above grade pump station, 4 20 horsepower pumps, and we upgraded the capacity to 650 gallons per minute. And we sent out bid packets, and Haynes Pump and Process were the only ones to come back with a bid. And their bid was under our budget we had for 2024. We had $300,000, and it came in at $264,378 and 40 cents. And this is equipment only, because the stuff that we purchase is long lead items, 22 to 28 weeks. So this is equipment only. So depending on when we get submittals in, we'll put it out for installation / construction. And I may or may not be back to the board to get it installed. But it is in the 2024 budget, and it's under the sewer lift station, and there's a COA in your bid, in your packet.
Any questions of Todd? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. Have you worked with Haynes Pump and Process before?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you're
we have,
confident
we have
with-
many Smith & Levis stations in the city.
Okay. And how many lift stations do we have in the system now?
We have 88 major stations, and we have almost 4,000 simplex stations that we maintain.
And you said this one just is wore out. Do we have
It was put in 1974.
Yeah, I mean, I know, I believe you. Do we have a analysis of our lift stations as to how many are worn out or near worn out? How many are we going to need to be replacing on a periodic basis? I haven't heard any updates on this in quite a while, and that's something, before we go into our budgeting process, before it's completely worn out, it's good to know what's needed.
Right now, we're focusing on Gulfa.
Yeah, I
Gulf
know.
Pump Station. That would be a Monty Ledbetter,
Okay.
Bobby Harris question. I'm more in the capital side.
You're doing the projects, but the status of the priorities of what needs to be replaced next and how many are coming due to look at replacement in the next few years is another person to follow up with.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Monty Ledbetter, the Utilities Director, and Bobby Harris, yeah.
Okay,
They're-
I understand.
I build it, and they operate and maintain it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay,
Any further questions of Todd? Thank you, Todd.
thank you.
Okay, item number 4 is consider resolution R 2483, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a 2024 Arkansas Transportation Alternatives Program and Recreational Trails Program grant for Phase 2 of the Stokes Creek Greenway Trail. And this is by Anthony Whittington, our Parks and Trails Director.
Thank you, Mr. Spicer. In March 2024, the Arkansas Department of Transportation announced they would be receiving grants for the Arkansas Transportation Alternative and the Recreation Trail Program grants with a due date of May 31st, 2024. This application is the same for both grants, and the city may be awarded one program grant but not both. This grant funding gives us the opportunity to expand Stokes Creek Greenway Trail from Kimmery Street south to the intersection of McLeod and Leonard. There is a map attached in your packet. This section of trail will parallel Leonard Street and offer beautiful walk along Stokes Creek. These two program grants, TAP and RTP, are 80% funded, which requires a 20% match. It's estimated that the cost of Phase 2 will require a grant match of $500,000. The city will have a 130 match for a total project of $630,000. The match funds are identified to come from Complete Streets account and a donation from Hot Springs Friends of the Parks. This is part of the 2024 amended budget. The breakdown is as follows: $117,000 is coming from Complete Streets with a COA attached, and a $13,000 generous donation from Friends of the Parks.
Any questions of Anthony? Anthony, on the Stokes Creek Greenway, I know it's not all built out, but what is considered, one end and what is the other end, and how much will we have done after this?
We currently have no trail built right now. Phase 1 has been awarded to us. We're expecting to have that bid out in June of this year, July this year. We had one more hurdle that RDOT put in front of us with an archaeological study on Phase 1, which went from Richard down to Kimmery. And so that's been completed. And so we should be able to get that bid out very soon. And then that'll take us to Phase 2, which is this grant. Phase 3 will go McLeod to RDOT right-of-way down by Lakeshore Drive. And then from Richard, probably up to Frida, will be Phase 4. And then we'll start heading that direction toward, hopefully my career will connect the two greenways together at Hollywood Park. So that's the goal. That's the
Okay,
process.
well,
Yes,
thank
sir.
you very much.
Thank you.
Here's your map.
Yeah, there's the map I was going to say.
Next.
All right, next item, consider resolution R 2484. This is a resolution approving the purchase of census-based base stations from Core and Main LP pursuant to ACA Section 1458-104 in the amount of $200,812.05. We have Mr. Luke Lingo, UBS Meter Manager. Welcome, Luke.
Thank you. The city's municipal water system relies on an automated metering collection system powered by Census software. However, the outdated software and components are no longer supported and require replacement to prevent system failures. To ensure seamless compatibility between the water meter portal and the reporting data, staff recommends upgrading 4 of the 9 collectors across the city's water district with new equipment from Core Main of North Little Rock, the sole source for our area, for $200,812.05, as set out in the proposal from Core Main. This upgrade will guarantee the continued efficiency and accuracy of our water metering system. This is included in the 2024 budget.
Any questions of Luke? Director Garcia?
What's the lifespan typically of this equipment?
A long time. The only reason we're replacing this equipment is because they quit making it, therefore quit supporting it, making parts for it. The new equipment that we're getting, there's no end of life for it. As long as they continue to support it, it's going to keep going.
But
The batteries, things like that, I mean, there's no 20 years is a great.
So you expect this to last 20 years? You don't expect them to quit supporting it?
No, when
Okay.
we got in on the last one, we bought in 2010, and they quit supporting around 2014. This new stuff that we got, they started making around 2014. So the likelihood of them stop making it is very unlikely.
Thank you.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Can you help me and others see some type of visual of what a census base station looks like or is? And how does it operate? What does it do?
Okay. It is, most of them are located at water towers, and it's two radios essentially at the bottom of the tower with line going all the way to the top with an antenna. The meters throw up their readings, and these are called collectors. They grab the readings and they throw it into the server, and that's how we get all of our reports and things like that. So they're really just collectors of our meter readings.
So as far as the data that's being collected, are you trying to see how many water gallons per minute are being flowed, or what's the frequency containing that's being pulled?
The water usage is pulled, and then they're dumped into different criterias for different types of reports to be made.
Okay.
So zero consumption, water meter's not using anything, insinuating a dead meter. High consumption, theft, tamper, all the above.
So pretty important to have. We want that working, wouldn't you
Yes,
say?
Yes.
Okay.
It would definitely be an asset to the city.
Thank you.
Luke, are these the sensors at our individual homes that are in our box, or is it something different?
Something different. We have 9 of these across the city's water district, and they
Okay.
collect all of the stuff that's at your house and the water meters,
Okay.
water meter boxes.
The meters that are at your house are 2 more agenda items, and they do not have the same lifespan that the stations have. It's kind of a 10-year replacement, so you'll see that in agenda item number 7.
This is radio communication, very, very simple, one way, it doesn't talk both ways. It's very simple when you look into it. Very complex to make it very simple method.
Very good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Next up, we have Resolution R2485, a resolution awarding a term contract to InfoSend Incorporated for certain utility bill printing and mailing services for the City of Hot Springs Utility Billing Services Department. And we have the UBS Director, Mara Harper.
Good afternoon. Due to the expiration of our current vendor, Utility Billing Services issued an RFP for the bill print and mailing services in February of '24. We've received 8 responses with proposals. After the completion of the rank and rank process, the selection committee selected InfoSend as the highest rated respondent to meet our printing and mailing needs for the Hot Springs utilities. A notice of intent was awarded for this contract and was published, and no protests were received. InfoSend is our current provider and has a great history providing us excellent service. The funds are in our '24 budget.
Very good. Any questions of Marla?
The amount?
Pardon? Director Dobbs Smith.
Is there any incentive for people to stop getting paper bills and just get it online only?
No, ma'am.
Because I know that's got to cost us a lot of money to mail those out. Sometimes just a little 50 cents or $1 might make people want to stop.
I'll make a note of that,
Thank you.
and we'll look into that for you.
Thank you.
Director Garcia.
Thank you. What was the amount?
This amount, last year, we spent $235,000 on mailing out our bills. And this year, we are on budget as $239,000, about a $4,000 increase.
And that's what this award is?
For InfoSend to continue billing for us.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
This is
welcome.
the same company we're currently using?
Yes, sir.
Director Trustee.
Thank you, Mayor. What was your first statement? You said due to something happening with our provider?
The
now it's the same thing?
expiration.
Oh, just
of
the
the
expiration
current,
of the 5
yes.
years? Gotcha, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further questions? Okay, we'll move to the next item, which is also Mara's item, Resolution R-2486, a resolution approving the purchase of census water meters and associated components from Core and Main LP pursuant to ACA Section 1458-104 in the amount of $566,598.99. Ms. Harper.
The city's municipal water system relies on the automated metering systems comprising of the water meter, software, and related components manufactured by Census. To ensure the system-wide compatibility and efficiency, it is essential to use the meters of the same model and brand. As the sole authorized distributor of Census products of Arkansas, Core and Main of North Little Rock is the only viable supplier for this area. Therefore, staff is requesting the purchase of the necessary meters and components from Core and Main of North Little Rock in the sum of $566,598.99 set out in the proposed bid from Core and Main.
Any questions of Marla? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. How many meters did you say this was?
This is for the total of 3,000 meters.
And how many, is there an estimate how many we need to replace annually?
We try to replace the ones that have completely gone dead first, and then we start in on the oldest ones. And it's as staff gets to them.
Are we actually purchasing these, or are we just kind of putting it, so to speak, that they hold the inventory and we grab them as we need them?
No, they will send them to us.
So you're gonna have 3,000 meters
Yes,
delivered
sir.
on a specific date?
They are hoping that we have them by September. It's still backlogged.
All right, Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. To piggyback on Director Garcia's question, you know, monitoring how many meters that we should do each year, do we have any number for how many meters as of right now that are in need of replacement? Like do not work, broke, need to be fixed?
That is a constant for us to look at.
Okay.
We've already replaced over 566 meters this year.
In '24?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any meters on stock?
Yes.
To replace, we do?
Yes.
How many of those?
We have about 900 meters.
900 left, so this will
Yes.
get us to 3,900 or
Yes,
so?
sir.
Do you anticipate putting in any of those 500-plus meters before you were to be awarded these 3,000 meters?
Yes, sir.
You do?
Yes.
Thank you. Well, I guess the last question is, do we think that it's in excess of 3,900 that are in need of repair? Or would that
Right now.
be tough to know?
That would be tough to know.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think what we had learned in the past is that when we started this, you know, radio meter reading project, they were all installed at the same time.
Correct.
And yet, you know, we can't necessarily replace them all at the same time, but we have to begin the process of replacing, as you're just saying, those and try to prioritize them. How many meters do we have throughout the system of this kind?
We have about 40,000.
Yeah. So that's more than a day's work.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
And while obviously, you know, they're not all broken, as they get older, they slow down. They give an inaccurate reading, which means we're not getting the full benefit of the services being provided.
Yeah. And additionally, like in part of Mara's budget, we, on the capital side, anywhere from 500,000 to 600,000, I think we annually allocate toward that because meters are essentially your cash register
Correct.
for the system.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next item we have is Resolution R-2487, a resolution awarding a contract to Crafton and Toll Associates Incorporated for certain architectural services for the Hot Springs Fire Department. We have our Fire Chief, Ed Davis.
Good afternoon, board members. So today I come for you with a request to award a contract for architectural services to Crafton Toll. On March 8th of 2024, members of Hot Springs Fire Department conducted a review of the proposals from 3 different architectural services that had responded back to the city's SOQ. Those were WER Architects, SSF Architects, and Crafton Toll and Associates Incorporated. 3 evaluators, Addison Dunn, Tom Broughton, and myself, ranked and rated the 3 firms. We used the Hot Springs Statement of Qualifications for Professional Services evaluation form. The results were as follows. Crafton Toll scored 91.67%, WR Architects scored 80, SFS Architects scored 78.33. Yeah, we used a 100-point scale, and Crafton Toll obviously received the highest score of the 3 firms evaluated by the reviewers. This particular contract actually covers 2 different buildings. It covers the construction of the fire station on First Security Way. It also covers the construction of a training building at 517 Vernell Street. You guys were gracious enough to fund that in the 2024 budget, and since we were having architectural services for the fire station, we thought that we would include the Vernell Street project in that as well. There will actually be a split. The funding for the fire station will come from board reserves. The funding for the architectural services for the training building will actually come from a different account that you established in our capital budget for 2024. So the financial impact is upfront costs. Those are stipulated at $31,500 for engineering design and landscape architecture, $4,500 for architectural design and documentation costs, and then 6.5% of the total cost of construction will be paid out over time in 5 different installments at different phases of the project. Obviously, part of it will be paid at the time that they submit plans, part of it will be paid at a certain point in construction, and then the last 10% will be paid at the end of the project. Crafton Toll will also provide us with some value engineering services to help us reduce the costs, as well as making monthly and in some cases weekly visits to the project site to evaluate the progress. It's a good proposal. It has 14 major points in it that I think that you will find pretty easy to read. We did make a modification to the original proposal that they did to make the process of the Vernell Street project a little clearer and separated out from the First Security Way project. So the total architectural design costs, on this project will again be 10,000 engineering permits and construction administration fees, and then 31,500 up front and 4,500 up front. As I said, the other costs, the 6.5% of total project costs will be paid out over the life of the project.
Any questions of Chief Davis?
It's a good proposal. I think when you look through it, you will be impressed with what they're saying they're going to provide for us. They have an incredible amount of capacity to be able to produce projects like this. We worked with Crafton Toll in the past, not on projects for us, but on projects for other people. We have found them to be incredibly professional and very, very responsive back when you have a problem. We have every confidence in their abilities.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next item is consider resolution R2488, a resolution amending resolution number 1384, approving a revised Appendix K to the airport property management policy. And we will have our airport director, Don Roulette, present.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. In March of this year, we presented the board with a revision to the airport property management policy, and in there is the Appendix K, which is the airport rates, and that resolution was approved at that time. As we went to implement it at the end of March, first part of April, we realized that several of the sales in the spreadsheet were not using the formulas correctly, that some of them had been corrupted over time. Other entries had been hard typed into the slots. So as we were going through, the Appendix K that was in there approved did not show all of the corrections that should have been. So this is an amendment to that. We went through and cleaned up the cells, and we're confident now that everything's the way it should be. So we wanted to amend that and then be able to implement it for upcoming leases.
Good. Well, thank you very much. Any questions? Director Garcia?
All these are maintained in a separate Excel spreadsheet on a PC?
Yes,
that-
ma'am. It's been the same one that they've used for a long period.
time.
and
So we
it's on
don't
the
have any
computer.
systems that the airport is linked to be able to keep it in a system online or anything?
No, we don't keep it online. It's going to be on the PC. We're operating it, and then we have a second set of eyes go by and check it. We will have, as we get this approved, it will be posted on the website for tenants and everyone to see what the rates are.
So do you have to bill offline too, or does accounting have a system that bills?
The billing goes through, some of it goes through finance. We have some that the attendants come into the airport and they pay their bill there. And then we have a tracking system, another spreadsheet that is sent over to finance to reconcile between the ones they got and the ones that we have.
Thank you.
Any further questions of Don? Don, how many tenants would you say are at the airport that you submit bills to?
We have 95 hangars, so you got a tenant in each one of those. So overall, tenants probably 150 with office spaces and so forth.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thanks.
Okay. Excuse me. Next up, we have Resolution R2489, a resolution awarding a term contract to Semac Services LLC as a member of Dogwood Industries, doing business as Dogwood Landscape Services for certain mowing and landscaping services at the Hot Springs Memorial Field Airport. We have our airport director, Don Roulette.
On this one, we do this annually with the mowing outside of the airfield perimeter fence. That's the front lawn in front of the Bill Edwards Center, inside as well. In your package, you should have a map of the 8 sections that are identified for this operation. It totals out to 14.3 acres. We put the bid out. We had 6 respondents. This is the low bid on the bid, and for that, it has 2 projects up front that are landscaping projects that's included in that first month, and then from that point on, it goes to a monthly billing for weekly mowing. It'll go through. As soon as it's approved here, we're already in the growing season, so it'll go through October of this year. Now, this says a term agreement with 4 years, 4 1-year evaluations and extensions on the process. And currently, the total for the one term is $34,042.16.
Director Garcia?
Have you used this vendor before?
Not that I'm aware of. The one that we used last year, they did a real good job. They bid on this as well, but they came in the middle of the 6 for their price.
Is this a Hot Springs vendor?
I believe so. I believe it's
Mount Ida.
Mount Ida, yes.
Okay, that's why I was asking. I saw something about them in Mount Ida. But they've been completely vetted, or did you review did the city attorney review the contract?
We did. We looked at the paperwork that they had there to make sure their items were lined up. We did go through a process with that because they did have a few documents that were not lining up with the names and so forth, but we've got that rectified now.
I just want to make sure that it's vetted. We've had problems with mowing vendors in the past. We even had one come in and commit fraud, and we don't want that to happen anymore.
Yeah.
Contract's pretty straightforward. When you refer to the vetting of the vendor, that is difficult in a straight bid scenario. If it were a request for proposals or request for qualifications, then you can dig into that, much deeper. It is difficult when it's a straight bid.
But
And
if it's a brand-new vendor that we haven't used before, is it not prudent to do some research or background check?
and if that's a basis to refuse their bid and go to the next lowest bid, I suppose.
Well, I just know I don't want history to repeat itself.
Certainly.
Don, what some of us are referring to is that the successful bidder has lacked the equipment necessary to do the acreage involved. It'd be like me getting a push mower and saying, I'll do 14 acres. Probably not going to happen.
All right.
And then after about a week, you realize that, or they realize, oh, I can't do this, and you're going to number 2 right away.
Right.
So do we have any idea of the equipment that's being used on this?
Not that I'm aware of. In the bid packet, it didn't list the type of equipment. It just had on there the total space and the fact that it's a mow once a week.
Okay. Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. So you did mention, Mr. Don, that this was billing each month and mowing each week. Was part of the contract too to imply that all 14.3 acres are to be mowed each week?
Yes.
I just wonder, since we've encountered that one issue with the other mowing company, Parks and Trails kind of went to where there were some positions that were open for mowing Parks and Trails. Have we, city staff, maybe looked at that being an option for the airport as well, as maybe having some seasonal employees take on this? And if that's the case and there has to be, machinery purchase, would all of that come in under $34,000?
It probably would. We do have some machinery already, but keeping them out there as a part-time employee running back and forth on the airport, we haven't really looked at it. It's been the practice of the past years to have one company do it. We did have an incident last year where we released one company that had come in, and we went to the second one, and they did a great job. And that's the number 3 company that was on the bid this year. And they were about $2,000 more a month.
Well, if we were to move forward with this, would the contract allow the city, depending upon the services being provided, if they were to fall short of what is being expected of their services, could the city go with another bidder?
Sure, we always
Okay.
always have that option. The question's going to be, is that next bidder available to do
available?
the job? When they made the bid, they were doing it based on how much work can I handle.
Well, you're getting that, and we're into the season now, so they were supposed to start in April. And so we're at May, so we've gone 1 month without it, and the airport staff's been trying to take care of it while we work through the contract.
This might be something I'll look into moving forward, is to whether or not we may have an option for seasonal work for mowing for the airport too.
We can certainly do that. 'cause
Thank you.
I think like when Don's talking about the acreage and using his staff, this is the unregulated outside the
Right,
fence
right.
type stuff. So he's regulated under FAA mandate to keep the grass within the regulated space, cut very, very often. So that kind of, just from a
It's
staffing
about
component.
350 acres.
Yeah.
That we have to maintain the standard for the FAA.
Thank you.
Director Garcia?
Did I understand that the vendor that you were very satisfied with was, and had the equipment and could do the job, was $2,000 higher than this bid overall, but you don't know how much equipment this vendor has nor any experience with this vendor? Is that correct?
That's correct, ma'am. I mean, they're
Has-
the lowest bin, and they're the lowest vendor that bid, and like I said, the bid didn't have what kind of equipment you're gonna have. You gotta be mowed once a week. You got 14.3 acres to do in 8 different sections.
Well, it doesn't always have to be the lowest. That's not a big difference for the assurance that it's going to be done well.
Well, it's 2,000 a month, not 2,000.
Oh, I thought, I
2,000
said
a
overall,
month.
2,000 per month.
Oh, okay. I
And-
misunderstood, I'm
And
sorry.
unless there's a valid reason to reject a bid, it is the low bid.
Yes, I understand. I said I misunderstood. I said, is it 2,000 overall? And I thought that's what the indication was. Thank you.
Any
Sorry.
additional questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Resolution R 2490, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a fiscal year 2023 and 2024 Federal Transit Administration 49 U.S. Code Section 5339 Bus and Bus Facilities Grant Program Funds for Hot Springs Intercity Transit. And Board, these are the annual applications that the city makes to support our transit services. Whenever we refer to these grant programs, 5339 is specifically for capital and bus replacement type programs. And they are done at an 80% federal with a 20% local match. And the reason we're bringing both an FY23 and an FY24 to you for consideration is we have a slate of projects that you kind of stockpile these particular program funds to purchase and pay for these capital programs. The FY23 is $84,461. The FY24 is $93,526, and we'll be utilizing those for the purchase of a vehicle tracking and scheduling database system. And we will be working on upgrading the public address system there at the depot, so you're able to communicate with passengers, and purchase additionally an ADA paratransit van with a wheelchair lift. So that's what these particular funds will be utilized for.
Got any questions on the resolution R-24-90? Thank you.
Okay, the next item we have is Resolution R-2491. This is a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of a grant application for FY 2024 with Federal Transit Administration for federal transportation assistance authorized by 49 U.S. Code Section 5307 Urbanized Area Grant Program for the Hot Springs Intercity Transit. And this particular program, 5307, is what we utilize for capital replacement as well, but we're also able to utilize it for operating assistance, which is somewhat unique because we're a smaller urban system. The FY24 funding is set at $1,053,386, and for operating assistance, it's 50-50. We provide a 50% match to the federal money, and then on capital, it's an 80-20 as well. So these particular funds are how we fund the bulk of our transit services with those operating assistants, and we will be making that application to FTA for these 2024 funds. And note, the funding goes up about 5 to 8% each year because of the bipartisan infrastructure law. There's some funding through transit, through federal aviation as well. So as part of that legislation, these various grant programs receive funding increases. But that'll conclude the presentation on that one.
Director Garcia?
As this 5 to 8% increase into operating expenses is looked at, as we get into planning for the 25-year, can you see if there's any additional funds for extending our hours for the bus route any further?
We can look at that. We currently run, excuse me, from 6 to 8, Monday through Friday, and then Saturdays 10 to 6. We have had some requests for extension.
Later because of people getting off at 9 or 10.
Yes.
And anything that would help residents that are dependent on the bus system, I know that they appreciate it.
We will certainly look into it.
Any additional questions on this item? Thank you.
Okay, next item is Resolution R2492. This is a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of grant funding for FY 2025 Project Safe Neighborhoods program funded by the U.S. Department of Justice, Bureau of Justice Assistance, and administered through the Arkansas Department of Finance and Administration. We have our Police Chief, Billy Harvington.
Thank you. Project Safe Neighborhood is designed to create and foster safer neighborhoods through a sustained reduction in violent crime. The program's effectiveness depends upon the ongoing coordination, cooperation, and partnerships of local, state, tribal, and federal law enforcement agencies working together with the communities they serve, engaged in a unified approach led by the U.S. Attorney's Office. The grant funds are provided by the Department of Justice's Bureau of Justice Assistance, but administered by the appointed fiscal agent, which is the Arkansas Department of Finance and Administration. The Hot Springs Police Department has applied for and been awarded this grant for several years. The grant provides for overtime, equipment, travel, and training with a focus on the pursuit and apprehension of those perpetrating violent crime, drug trafficking, and weapons-related offenses. HSPD has been a vital partner in the PSN program with the U.S. Attorney's Office of the Western District of Arkansas for multiple years. If approved by the board, HSPD intends to request funding for overtime expenditures for special operations related to drug trafficking, violent and weapon-related crime, training, and potentially equipment. There is no financial impact upon the city as this is a non-matching grant. I'd be happy to answer if you have any questions.
Any questions of the chief? Thank you.
Okay. Currently, this is the final item of your consent agenda. Resolution R2493, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of grant funding for the continuation of the State of Arkansas Selective Traffic Enforcement Program for 2025, and Police Chief Billy Harvington.
Since 1998, the Hot Springs Police Department has participated in the Highway Safety Subgrant Agreement of the Selective Traffic Enforcement Program, also known as STEP. The goal of the project is to decrease the number of traffic-related vehicle accidents and fatalities by conducting specific traffic enforcement operations in the city of Hot Springs and Garland County, such as DWI, seatbelt, distracted driving, and speed enforcement. These enforcement activities are important to the overall motorist safety and are part of a larger nationwide effort and mobilization with programs such as Click It or Ticket. The grant provides funding to reimburse overtime expenditures, personnel expenses, and fuel vehicle maintenance costs specific to these enforcement activities. It also funds traffic enforcement related equipment such as radar and LiDAR units. These expenditures require no match from the city. The Hot Springs Police Department's total budget request for the 2025 STEP grant will be $164,539.83. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Any questions of chief on this item? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, first item of your new business section is Resolution R2494, resolution declaring a certain structure located at 102 Tennessee Street a nuisance and condemning same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. We have our Chief Building Official, Mr. Mike Scott.
Thank you, Lance.
In August of 2021, the owner of 102 Tennessee passed away. In March of 2023, Southern Bancorp began foreclosure on the property. In May of 2023, we started sending notices to 2 known relatives and Southern Bancorp to repair the property. Southern Bancorp did sign the letter, but the other 2s did not. In June of 2023, the structure caught fire and was significantly damaged. Having no one attempting to rectify the current situation with the structure, we turned this address over to Attorney ad litem to ensure all parties were notified of the pending condemnation. Due to the extensive damage caused by the fire and the inability or unwillingness of their heirs and Southern Bancorp to make the needed repairs, we have no other reasonable alternative, and staff recommends the structure be raised and removed. Currently, the delinquent taxes on this property is $367.65, and the city has a lien of $490.
Any questions of Mike? Thank you.
Okay, your next item on your agenda is Resolution R 2495, resolution declaring a certain structure located at 309 Glade Street a nuisance and condemning the same pursuant to Title 17 of the Hot Springs Code. Mr. Scott.
Thank you. 309 Glade Street. Since April of 2021, we have been sending notices to repair this property. In November of 2022, a building permit was issued to America's Best Companies, Incorporated, to bring the structure into compliance. In January of 2023, it appeared that work had stopped on the structure, and notice was sent to ask them to resume work and correct all violations. In May of 2023, another notice was sent, and we informed them that the permit had expired and they needed to secure the building and repair the roof at a minimum. In August of 2023, a citation was mailed for failure to comply with the notice. Both letters were returned unopened. The citation was null processed for no proof of service. In February of 2024, we turned this over to Attorney ad litem to ensure all parties were notified of the pending condemnation. Due to the extent of deterioration, the inability or unwillingness of the property owner to make the necessary repairs to stabilize the structure and have no reasonable alternative, the structure should be raised and removed. Delinquent taxes on this property is $563.46.
Any questions of Mike on this one, this item? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. I haven't got a particular question on this item, but it does involve this scope. In January or February of 23, when Director Beard and I first arrived on the Board of Directors, you were gracious enough to sit down with us and kind of share with us your scope of services as city staff for Hot Springs, and you provided a list to both of us of all the homes that are on like the city's watch list, if you will, for being condemned and so forth. Can you provide another updated list of those homes to us for this year?
We keep an Excel spreadsheet of that. It's up to date all the time, and I believe we even have it online now.
I know, like, you know, in District 4, for example, there, I want to say, was about 12 homes, and I got to all 12.
Yeah.
And on 3 of those 12 stops, I actually visited with somebody who was at the property doing work, and I submitted those properties to you to ask that they be removed from that list. But I not only does having that list provide us an opportunity to check on those properties, but I think it could help us also provide an opportunity for potential flippings. You know, having investors buy the homes, to flip the homes, to keep the homes in good standing. Not to say they all can be saved, but if any can be, I want to be in as good of a position to help make that possible for our city as I can. So I would appreciate that list if you could get one to me and the other directors if they would like one too.
Yeah, I can email everybody the list.
Thank
we
you.
actually get several inquiries a month on that list, and we give them that list. And it's contractors, some of them that we know. They're looking for properties that they can fix up, and some of them, it's individuals look into them, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any additional questions of Mike? Thank you.
Okay, your next item is consider resolution R 2496, a resolution amending resolution numbers 1,325 and 1,326 346, by adding the position of Assistant Fire Chief to the Hot Springs Fire Department and for other purposes. And we have our Fire Chief, Ed Davis.
Directors, Hot Springs Fire Department is requesting that we establish an Assistant Chief's position. The Assistant Chief position would assist with the day-to-day administration and management of the fire department. Many of these tasks have been picked up by the current fire marshal. It's really kind of unfair to him to expect him to do fire prevention activities and also to be able to deal with these different various duties. And so one of the things that we would like to do is we would like to establish an Assistant Chief position to take over those administrative tasks. So currently, the fire department has 80 people that are on our authorized table of personnel. And so we would need to add one position to that. That would mean we would have to modify the table of authorized personnel and also modify the pay tables. Those were approved in the 2024 budget. To do this, we would need to establish a pay grade of 6 FD2. That would be a pay grade that would be the beginning step for the prospective candidate who would become the Assistant Chief. If you do determine to approve this position, the position would be referred to the Civil Service Commission. Civil Service Commission would then establish a process for evaluating prospective candidates and ultimately filling the position. The Assistant Chief position will be classified as a 6FD2. Annual salary would be $105,331. Total yearly cost, including salary and benefits, would be $143,008. Because of the changes to department's organizational structure during 2024, there is enough money in our current budget to establish the position without a budget amendment.
Any questions of Chief Davis on this item? Director Webb?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Chief Davis, I think you did answer this question, but I'm just going to make sure I heard you right. This position, Assistant Fire Chief, is going to be considered an equal opportunity for all firefighters, and anyone who has potential qualifications could submit their application and then be given an opportunity to be interviewed and examined by the Civil Service Commission prior to being hired? Is that what you were saying? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the position will be referred to Civil Service Commission. They will establish the process that will be used to select the persons. They will put together a list, and then that list will be forwarded to me, and it will go through the normal process.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Okay, your next item is Resolution R2497, resolution approving the application of Jason Bennett, doing business as JJ's Charter Service, for a charter services transportation permit with certain conditions. And our city clerk, Harmony Morrissey, will present.
Thank you. So Mr. Jason Bennett, who's been operating JJ's Pedicabs pursuant to a franchise agreement since March of 2016, recently acquired a Lincoln Town Car that he now desires to operate as a charter service. This Town Car is a 2000 model, so it's 24 years old, and it does not qualify to be licensed or permitted as a limousine service per the definition of the Hot Springs Code. That is why he has applied to operate as a charter service. So Mr. Bennett submitted his application on March 19th. On March 25th, Hot Springs Police Officer Cox filed an incident report in response to allegations of an unpermitted limo service being operated by Mr. Bennett. The following day, on March 26th, Mr. Bennett did receive a criminal citation from the Hot Springs Police for operating a limousine service without a permit and operating a limousine without proper uniform. Meanwhile, staff was reviewing his application and had set a public hearing before the Transportation Advisory Committee for Monday, April 15th. Notice of that public hearing was published and sent to other permit holders. Transportation Advisory Committee held that meeting on April 15th, and Mr. Bennett appeared represented by counsel. The Transportation Advisory Committee voted 4 in favor, 0 opposing, and 1 abstaining to recommend that the Board of Directors approve the application for a charter permit if Mr. Bennett is found not guilty of violating the Hot Springs Transportation Code upon the disposition of case number 24-1869, and further that the permit would be limited to licensing only 1 vehicle, that the vehicle would be subject to Hot Springs Code requirement set out in 13-118B, which is the annual examination by Hot Springs Police Department. Further, that the applicant would submit a sound business plan and that he would provide proof of insurance in an amount equal to the greater of either the state or local requirement. So that recommendation is being forwarded to you. The Board of Directors reviews the application, considers the same standards and factors as the Transportation Advisory Committee before making a final determination.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. When is his criminal case? What is the date for it?
The date for his first appearance, his arraignment, would be actually the same day as the meeting.
May 7th?
But that's his arraignment.
Yeah, I'm thinking out loud here, but there's been some similar issue like this where there was some potential, court appearances and charges, and it was the applicant's desire to pull that item off of the agenda. Would that be an option here in this case? Do we have any purview to maybe provide that suggestion to the applicant?
Suggestion, or the board could even table it, if that's what you wanted to
Okay.
do.
That suggestion was actually offered to Mr. Bennett. He indicated that he wanted to go ahead and proceed.
If, obviously that's a matter to be discussed next week, but if that ultimately is going to be one of the criteria, one of the restrictions, then that's a yet to be determined issue, right? So the board would be, within its bounds to table it until after that's been decided, if that's what you want to do. But because it is a property interest and his application is pending, it needs to stay on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions on this item? Director Webb?
One more, Mayor, thank you. So you had mentioned that the particular individual was pulled over and given a criminal charge by Hot Springs Police Department. Have there been any other encounters with the police since for similar behavior?
To clarify, he was not pulled over. There was an incident report that Officer Cox entered in response to complaints that he had received, as well as photos and some video. I believe he's planning on being here and can speak to that directly.
Okay.
As far as I know, there have not been any more incidents.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions on this agenda item? Hearing none, we'll move forward.
Okay, this is your final item and your only ordinance of the evening, Ordinance O-2416, an ordinance amending the zoning map from R2 residential suburban to CTR commercial transitional for .67 acres generally located immediately south of 111 Abbott Place, amending the future land use map to commercial enclave and for other purposes. We have Rick Stoddard, our planning and zoning manager.
Thank you, Lance. Mayor, members of the board. Applicant Mr. Steve Street, representing property owner Mr. James Cloud, seeks CTR commercial transitional zoning for approximately .6 acres of undeveloped land. The subject property has approximately 156 feet of street frontage on Abbott Place. Abbott Place is located east of Higdon Ferry Road and is off of Section Line Road, south of the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Expressway. The applicant's narrative states that Abbott Place is a small city street with limited mixed-use properties. On the corner of Section Line Road and Abbott Place, you will find a strip center with a mixed-use tenant plus an out parcel for a commercial eye center. Properties to the south of this property are zoned C4 and include the Elks Club with a large parking lot. Within 200 and 250 feet of the subject property, you have the U.S. Postal Service building, which is zoned planned development. Malvern National Bank Plaza, zone C4. Again, the eye clinic, it's also zone C4. Other medical office, zone PD and CTR, as well as a few single-family residences. The property's future land use classification of residential low is not compatible with the requested CTR zoning. Other CTR properties in the vicinity have future land use designations of commercial enclave. So the staff report finding to Planning Commission was that the applicant successfully demonstrate that the standards for favorable consideration were met. and that Planning Commission is able to establish a basis for recommending to the Board of Directors that the proposed change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning. So our recommendation to Planning Commission was that they recommend the Board of Directors adopt an ordinance to amend the zoning map designating the property CTR because the change demonstrates compatibility with surrounding development and zoning, and to also amend the future land use plan map by designating the property commercial enclave. As far as Planning Commission's action, at their duly advertised regular meeting on April the 10th, Planning Commission called for testimony, considered the record, and by their 8-0 vote, recommended that the Board of Directors adopt an ordinance amending the zoning map for this 0.6 acres of land from R2 to CTR, and to amend the future land use map to commercial enclave.
All right. Any questions of Rick on this item? Director Garcia?
Just clarification, Rick or our city attorney, this is one of our legislative functions, is it not?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
Any additional questions? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That concludes the items for your consideration.
This concludes our agenda meeting, and again, we'll take formal action on these items next Tuesday at 6 p.m. right here at City Hall, and that's May 7th. Have a great evening.
That'll be next time.